Hello, hello. Okay, please grab a seat and then we can start. This is the most students I have seen for the whole, whole course. Anyone attending my course for the first time? My lecture. But I mean, like I didn't teach all the sessions, right? I hope that they are from the Saturday afternoon session. So I do see some not very familiar faces. So I hope that is not actually from my own session that you're seeing it for the first time. So well, there will be no participation mark today. So but you can still ask questions. Before we start, any questions on the exam? Well, we'll have a lot of questions. Any question on the project? Any question on the project already? So you need to submit the slides and then the video. Yeah. And I think we need to have some peer evaluation. If you miss the details about the exam, it will be open book, right? We will have well, I guess I have to say yes, right? Like this is an AI course. What's that? I've never used this one on Zoom before. So they are using. Okay. Um, so exam will have like 20 multiple choice questions. Yeah, I think we have mentioned this before, right? So the exam will have 20 multiple choice questions. Each question will have like 4 choices, right? And then we'll have like essay questions. So for the essay questions, we'll give you 5 questions, but you only need to pick 4. Only need to answer 4. Okay. So I think if you answer all 5, they will just pick the first 4. Okay, to mark it. Okay. So don't waste your time and answer all 5. Okay, you only need to pick the 4 that you think you have most confidence. Right. So today we'll go through some like multiple choice and some essay questions, and then we'll go through them together. Hopefully, we don't need 3 hours unless you have a lot of questions. So any questions before we start? And this is not a material review session, right? We're just going through the exam. So the questions that I have here is not a representation of what the exam will be like, right? You probably like, and also I think we go through the review section like in two lectures before, right? So from the material perspective. Oh, and also that the material for the lectures, the future one is not going to be on, like last week's lecture will not be on the exam, right? And then the lawyer guest lecture will not be on the exam, right? But all the other lectures will be, right? So you can see the material that when we talk about like the different LLM, right? The 6 characteristics of the LLM, the benchmarking, right? The agentic framework, responsible AI. So all those topics will be on the exam, except future of AI and then the lawyer guest lecture. Thank you. Yeah. So guest lecture including marketing, FSI, retail, those you might run into those questions on the exam, right? Again, open book. I hope we don't kill too many trees for the open book exam. I'm sorry, I don't know what is the better way to do this. Right? Because I don't want you to just memorize all this stuff, right? So I think it's not very meaningful to memorize all this stuff. But I guess we cannot let you use the computer also, right, during the exam. Otherwise, everyone will get like 100%, right? Everyone will use your own AI companion to answer the question. All right. So I'm gonna go through the questions and then like we'll talk through it. Right? So let me know if you have any questions. And yeah. Except the lawyer one. Other one will be is part of it. Except for the lawyer one and then the last week's lecture. Yeah. Is it? Oh, really? Really? Oh, sorry, but the exam is set already. So we have submitted the exam. So I don't think there's anything we can change. So except the lawyer one, and then except the future of AI, all the other lectures will be part of the exam. I won't say it will be on the exam. Because there's two versions. I will pick some and some may not have, right? So but please do bring those materials. Well, let me say this. It may not have a lot of questions related to those guest lectures, right? So like you see majority of the question was still related to the lectures that like Alex, Professor Huang and I taught. Yeah. Yeah. But they will ask you about the concepts that we talk about. In fact, I think one of the sample questions I have here actually related to one of the guest lecture. Yeah. Any other question? I apologize if we have miscommunicated that. Yes. The question is the 5 question, whether it's from easy to difficult. Then no one answered the 5th question, isn't it? Right? But it's all relative, right? So it may be easy to someone, but not easy to some other, right? That's why we give the choice of like to you to pick. Yeah. All right. So why don't we start with the first question? Remember ELIZA. So we talk about ELIZA. What is the mechanism that is used behind the scene for ELIZA to function? Anyone think is A? Anyone think is A? B? C? D? I didn't even see any hand up. Do you think this is difficult? No, right? Yes? Yes? You have your material, right? You want to like I give you some time to go through a material with you, or like so let's think about this, right? So remember ELIZA first. Do we know what we talk about ELIZA? Remember the first chatbot that was created, right? In the 60s, right? Like that we first created ELIZA. Remember the lady was in front of the terminal typing the words, and then like the computer program at the time was feeling compassion and then like asking whether she's happy and all that. Remember ELIZA. So first you need to find ELIZA. Where do we mention about ELIZA? Which lecture is it from? Which lecture was it from? So lecture one, right? Lecture one, right? So then you then actually on that page you will talk about that already, right? So what mechanism do we use? Do we use like GAN or like, well, I don't know whether you know what is GAN, generative like adversarial network. If you don't know about it, that's probably not the answer, right? Right? Reinforcement learning from human feedback. I hope you know what this is. We talk about it, right? But is it based on that? No, right? How about deep neural network? Wasn't even invented at the time, right? So the right answer is C, right? So remember at the time when Eliza was there, like we're just doing some pattern matching, and then like we're doing the symbolic AI, right? So you do need to remember the history of AI. We have the symbolic AI, a lot of like if and then else statement, try to catch a different conditions, right? And then using some substitution of wording to make it as if we are having a conversation with the program, right? So making it as if like there's a real person you're talking to, right? But so process of elimination. I don't know whether I need to teach you like how to do the multiple choice, right? You should be any questions? Any questions on this? Yeah. Shouldn't be too hard, right? I'm a little bit worried now. I thought it was not too hard, but okay. So please do ask if you have any question. Yeah, raise your hand. Yeah, question online. B. Yeah, someone answer online. Correct. B. So how about this? During phase one of AI history, symbolic AI. Yeah, the industry hit a wall of reality, leading to an AI winter. What was the primary cause of the limitation? Remember, well, obviously that's AI history. Again, which lecture is it from? Lecture one, right? Sorry, you can answer. A? You, you, this is your answer? What is the wall of reality? Remember the AI winter. Okay. Remember, like people were thinking that, well, AI is actually a bad word at the time, right? It's not going to work. It's too difficult, right? That's the wall of reality. What was lacking? What was lacking there? Well, cloud computing is definitely not invented yet, right? Global shortage of silicon chips and GPU. I think GPU already there, but I probably use for mainly gaming, right? So anyone who pick A, A, B. So I think there's some people online also picking B, right? So B, the system like cannot handle ambiguous unstructured data like image or speech. That is, remember that is like because we don't have like a lot of the data that was clean that people can train on, right? There's no computing, enough computing power to train all this network or all these like deep learning models, right? So that was the problem with the first AI winter, right? So until what happened? Until when we have the ImageNet, right? The data set created by Fei Li, right? That she actually clean up hundreds of thousands of images label them correctly. So providing people with a clean data set to train their neural network on, right? So she settled the data part of the equation, right? And that was ImageNet. And she created like competition, right? Every year that like people can go in and then try to test against like how is the computer AI can train against the success percentage accuracy on the data set, right? And remember 2017, AlexNet, right? And like that was actually created, right? Using multiple layers of the neural network, right? And at the same time, using GPU, right? The first one to actually leverage GPU, like I think they use 2 GPU to train their model, right? So that they make a very fundamental leap of the accuracy and performance on the ImageNet. And then we started the whole AI kind of era, right? The new kind of AI era with the deep learning, right? So B, right? That's the right answer. Yeah? B is the right answer. Okay. So what two immense power source or enablers, right? Specifically drove the deep learning. So I think we just mentioned that, right? Specifically drove the deep learning revolution. Was it A? Was it quantum computing? Right? Was it B? Who says B? Who says C? When is transformer architecture invented? When is transformer? Who invented the transformer architecture? Yes, yes. Extra point. No. So definitely it's not transformer, right? Well, I don't know what is the 5G network going to do with any of this, right? So definitely the answer was B, right? It's B, right? Big data, meaning the ImageNet, right? The data set that people can train on, right? And check their progress. And GPU, right? Because AlexNet, yeah. Do you kind of get this is how I would approach this, right? First, you locate for the question, hey, where is this coming from? Which lecture is it from? Right? This is like a search problem, right? So think about which lecture is it from, and then you can find out the more information, and you can eliminate a lot of the answer, right? Should be obvious enough that quantum computing was never a topic, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay. I hope you'll be all ready after this review session. According to the evolution of intelligence timeline, right, which metaphor is used to describe phase 3, generative AI? This is a little bit difficult, I think, this question. What is, first, I think you remember the different phases, right? Right, the symbolic AI and then the generative AI, right? Or the neural networks, right? Deep learning and then generative AI, right? Which is like where we are now, right? With the generative AI age, right? So what is the characteristics of the generative AI? Is it the rigid expert? Is it rigid? Right? So no, anyone say it's A? He's some right answer coming up. Is it trusted advisor? Can you really trust the generative AI? Remember how did generative AI generate the output? Yeah, like token, like probability function, right? It's a probability function, right? So definitely try not to trust everything that it generates, right? It can just be some random text, right? And then like people are saying C, right? Creative agency, right? So it's definitely have the creativity there, right? D is intuitive researcher. I don't think the intuition is there yet, right? So we talk about intuition, where the next age of like AGI, right? So the answer is C, right? Did you say I can upload the slides? You didn't answer me. We'll see who can upload the slide. Yeah. All right. Any question? Yeah. Any question? Stop me if you have any question. So keep going, right? So a key insight from the transition into generative AI phase 3 is the fundamental shift in operational objective. What best describes this shift? What best describes it? Is it one, moving from generalized knowledge to highly specialized medical data? Is it one? What does that even mean, right? You need to think about it, right? B, right? B, moving from discriminating, is this a cat, to generating a cat. Generative AI, right? So that should be simple. Who's that B? You're getting it. You're getting it. Similar. Okay, exam very similar. Okay, no worries. Okay. So moving from cloud processing to edge. Oh, someone actually write on it. Wow, I didn't know you can do that. So I don't need to. Wow, who is that? Cool. Okay. You can just do that. I didn't know. There's no control. Everyone can just write on it, right? So remember generative AI, right? It's like generating the but what is the age that do the discriminating? Is that a cat? Yes, stage 2, right? So the deep neural network, right? What AlexNet does is to actually identify the images, right? Telling what is a cat, whether it's a bus, right? Whether it's a car, right? So that's how they actually achieve the ImageNet competition, right? That's discriminating whether it's a cat or not a cat, right? So let's see how fast. I don't know who this person is to answer the question. For the next question, yeah. Hey, can you erase it? Now it stays on. Let me try. Here. Okay. Okay. So Gaia, General AI Assistant Benchmark. Which lecture is it from? Benchmarks. So although you might print all the lectures, right? I hope at least you remember like some concept that which lecture is it from, and then kind of like then it will help you a lot, right? So you don't need to memorize everything on the lecture notes, right? But at least kind of understand what you learn, right? What you know, right? Especially important for the essay question, right? So the benchmark highlighting a specific paradox in the AI evaluation. What is this paradox? What is a paradox? We all know what paradox, right? Probably don't need to say. So model, was it A? Model performed better in foreign language than their native training language. Is it A? Who says A? Questions that are conceptually simple for humans are often incredibly hard for AI. Who says B? It's gonna like A's exam. Okay. Open weight model always score higher than proprietary model. First, is this true? Like C, is it true? It's not even true, right? So I think most of the time you see proprietary model will score a little bit high. Oh, what happened? I didn't share again. Oh, I didn't do anything. Okay. So please don't overtake my share. Okay. So C is open weight model always score higher than the proprietary model, right? That's not true. We know that, right? Increasing a model's parameter size decrease its reasoning speed. Is that true? Is it true? Why don't you think that's true? What do we mean by increasing the model parameter size? The model getting bigger and bigger, right? So getting bigger probably actually take more resources to compute, right? So that's why you have a lot of shortage in GPU now, right? So that D was true, but is it related to the paradox? It's not even a paradox, right? So the correct answer is B, right? So remember what is the the AI assistant benchmark is for, right? That's like you go through your lecture notes, they will describe, right? The Gaia is to test the agentic capability of the large language model, right? And a lot of the time, even though the LLM can answer Olympic math questions, but sometimes they cannot answer what is 1 + 1, right? Yeah. So some of the very simple questions that human can solve, then the AI may fail with that. Although AI can answer a lot more complicated questions. So that's why that is a paradox, right? And a lot of those AI assistants, because it needs to help you with all these day-to-day tasks, if they test, the test was actually designed to check some of these very basic capabilities, whether it's useful as an assistant, right? So that is what that benchmark does. Any questions? Yeah. So next one. What specific tasks does Agent Bench use to evaluate LLM's agentic capability within an operating system environment? So again, right, this is from the benchmark lecture, right? And then remember that it's a benchmark called Agent Bench. Yeah. And what does it do? It also, again, like it was testing about the agentic capability, right, of the LLM. Right? So what does it do? So you generate a Python script to build a website from scratch. Is that safe? Engaging in a 10-turn conversation. Someone see the answer. 10-turn conversation with a human user. Definitely not, right? So the answer is C, right? So we type it again, then I have to clear it. So anyway, using the batch command to navigate a file system to locate a specific file. So remember the agent bench is to actually, you can find it in your notes, right? It's actually telling you how to actually execute tasks, right? It's like almost like give you a task, and then that task will actually related to a multiple commands on the operating system that you need to find it. You need to like search through the different directories and locate a certain file, right? So that is again to test the agentic capability, right? How does it do in operating certain OS? Yeah. So that's another. Well, of course, it's not translating a Linux menu into Spanish. That's nothing to do with that, right? All right. So how about the chatbot arena? Remember the chatbot arena? Remember we tested in class, right? I don't know whether we tested in our class, but determine the leaderboard ranking, right? For subjective model quality. How do we do the chatbot arena? Remember that? Anyone? Have you try again? Yourself? So remember the A/B test, right? It gives you two. You have one prompt. It gives you two outcomes. Then you will be the judge to tell the benchmark which one is better, right? Which one do you think is better, right? So is it used GPT-4 as an automated judge to rate the response from a scale of 1 to 10? All right. So B, test the models purely on their ability to write functional code. That's probably not the chatbot arena's job, right? So, well, actually, I mentioned it, right? It uses crowdsourced blind battles between two anonymous models to generate a ELO rating, right? So that's definitely the answer is C. Someone says C or D. So it doesn't measure any hardware latency. Okay, time to first token, it doesn't do that. Right? So, well, of course, you might take it as part of the evaluation. Whether when you read the outcome, some will come up faster, some will come up later, right? So whether it actually you take that into account, but it's purely based on your human judgment. What is ELO rating? Remember like that is playing chess, right? The same as like the chess championship, right? That like people play chess will have a ELO rating. And then when you compete A and B together, like playing a chess game, whoever wins the ELO rating will get increased, right? If a lower ranking one win a upper ranking one, your rating will increase a lot, right? If the upper ranking one win the lower ranking one, your increase will be marginal, right? So that's how the ELO rating kind of like calculated, right? How about this? Remember the benchmark data contamination, right? How is the live code bench method utilized? What specific countermeasure to combat that? Remember what is benchmark data contamination? What is that? Yeah, it's like what I'm doing now, right? I'm giving you all the exam like questions and answer that you can train on it now, right? Then hopefully you can get a good score in the exam. Same for the benchmark, right? No, I'm not giving you all the exam question. Okay, if you see a similar question on the exam, don't just answer the same ABC. Don't just remember that. Read the question carefully, okay? So they benchmark data contamination, right? It's actually because all those benchmarking results and data sets, question and answer, a lot may be published, right? If it's not published, some of the training kind of like entity or company can still get those data out and then try to train the model on it. Then in essence, that you already see the question and answer in the benchmark, and then the benchmark becomes very much useful, right? So not really helpful, right? And that's a category of benchmarks called live bench, and live code bench is specific for code, right? So how does it use to actually do that, right? Does it employ human expert to manually grade every line of code? That will be very terrible, right? That will be very difficult to do. It restricts the model's access to internal memory. Definitely not, right? So how can you do that? It uses a completely proprietary coding language, and it doesn't test anything. So obviously, its answer is B, right? Only test model using problem published after the model's training cutoff date, right? In fact, they continuously update their question, right? That's why maintaining the live bench is a very expensive. Right? They actually have a lot of like human experts continuously creating new questions, right? So they ensure that at least 30% of the questions are actually new. So thank you for the happy face. See, everyone is getting the correct answer. Okay. Okay. Chaotic domain. What's chaotic domain? You remember? The Generative framework, right? So remember in the chaotic domain of the Generative framework, what are the domains in the Generative framework? Remember that's the picture with like 4 things within. I will see. I mean, that's the simple, right? Simple, right? That's complex, complicated, right? And then chaotic, right? Chaotic is like the one in the middle, right? So I think we also give example of like in the lecture notes, right? An example of like a problem in the chaotic domain, right? When you try to determine what is in real time, what's a defect, right? It's a PR crisis, right? What do you recommend to decision model that you should establish? So I bet you probably don't remember this at all, right? But of course, the trick is to find that slide. And that slide is going to have that answer. That's really so easy, right? But if you want to think about it logically, when in the chaotic domain, you don't know what you don't know, right? And then you have no way of telling what is north and south, right? So what should you do first? You can, in the chaotic domain, can you sense? Can you actually determine, can you check what is the situation? You probably cannot, right? So in fact, I think the right answer, the right answer is B, right? When in the chaotic domain, you act first. You try to put out something first and test it. See whether it's actual, and then when you put out something, you act, then you check whether that's a good outcome, whether you can detect the defect or not, right? And then see how you, based on the response, you iterate, right? So that is kind of what you may not see this in the exam, but a similar question will be on the exam. Yeah. So easy, right? You find the right slides and you can just answer it. But think about it also if you can actually think about the logical way of handling it. Okay? So remember how might we statement, right? When you're evaluating the mapping of the how might we statement, remember we were in the other lecture hall, right? That like Michael was telling us, Michael and Jim were telling us how to do the design thinking, right? So remember the different colors that you put onto the 2x2 matrix. What is the axis of the 2x2 matrix? How do you determine the quadrant, right? Was it the, maybe we start from the bottom. Was it the risk of failure versus potential revenue? No, right? So value to your organization versus complexity to the implementation. Sounds right? That sounds right. Let's go on. Okay. How about the user desirability versus technical feasibility? That kind of makes sense, but probably not the one, right? So cost of implementation versus time to implementation. So cost and time is kind of like the same thing, isn't it? Right? It costs more and costs longer time to implement. Right? So I think we all remember, right? We want to attach to the green quadrants, right? Whether it's high value to the organization and very simple to implement, right? So that's high value, low value. There's simple and complex, right? So what you never want to do is the red zone, right? That you don't want to go to the problem that's low value and complex to implement, right? Kind of like waste of resources. Always go for the high value and simple one, right? So that is C, right? All right. And generative AI automates repetitive tasks. The course suggests that human talent development will shift towards unique human traits. Which of the following is one of those emphasized traits? Is it A? How fast you can type? Is it B? Oops, that's wrong. Whether you can memorize it? Definitely not. Was it C? Right? It's C, right? So that like you stay curious. Remember, the importance now is not how good you can answer the question, right? But which question that you ask, right? How do you ask the right question? How do you ask question in the right way, right? So that is becoming the human kind of trait, right? That is important, right, to us, right? Using AI as a tool to answer the question. But we have to ask the right question first, and we have to stay curious, right? So that's straightforward. All right, so we finished the multiple choice part. Any question? So you will see similar kind of like multiple choice questions. Some of the answer you see that it will be very obviously wrong, right? Don't pick those, right? Think about which lecture is it from and refer back to the lecture notes. Right? I'm not asking you to memorize anything, okay? So hopefully should be straightforward enough. The essay question need a little bit more of thinking, right? So all the questions is 20 marks each, right? So 20, I don't define that, but they can have at most 20 multiple choice questions. So I'm restricted to that. So 20 multiple choice questions, 1 point each. Yeah. So you just went through all that. And then the 4 questions you need to answer for the essay question. Each of the question will be 20 points, right? So think about like how are those points distributed, right? So each question will ask the different kind of parts, right? And then based on the different parts, you will get your point, right? You don't have to. I don't see that you have to write a lot, right? But please make sure that you answer the question correctly, right? And answer the question to the different parts, right? To get all the points. So the lectures highlight several important characteristics of the large language model. I think I keep saying this, right? This kind of like, isn't that the most important part I'm trying to keep, right? How do you evaluate, right? The different kind of like the model, right? Remember what was the 6? Remember what was the 6? I didn't list them all, right? Modality. What is modality? Yeah, multi-modality, right? You read picture, text, video, different, right? Latency, right? Time to first token, the throughput that you can have. How long do you need to wait for the first character to come back? How long you need to wait for the whole answer to come back, right? Latency. Context window, right? How big is the context window? right? That you can actually, how big is the input that you can put into the LLM, right? And then performance, right? Performance is how smart the model. What are the other two? What are the other two characteristics? Although there's no particular thing. Remember? Talk, right? Talk is one of them, right? So also remember to read the question in determining the suitability and effectiveness of the LLM and different business applications discussed in the lecture, right? So critically evaluate the significance of at least 3 of these characteristics. So you only need to pick 3. Okay, you don't need to pick all of them. Okay, so let's see the answer. So number 1, modality, right? So modality, right, refers to the capacity to process diverse data types, such as video, audio, image, blah, blah. So you give a description that you can very easily get from the lecture notes, isn't it? Right? And then, but you need to also remember, we need to discuss why this is important, right? So a pipeline architecture that you probably don't have to answer everything in here. I'm just giving you a very complete answer, right? Some model using a pipeline architecture to achieve multimodality, right? That they actually take video as an input, but actually sample the video with frames and then get the frame into the model at the end, right? So there's some pre-processing and stuff, right? So native multimodality in like Gemini, the multimodality from the very beginning, and that you can actually take it as an input. So that describes what is multimodality, right? But you can also you need to also give the business application, right? For real-time voice agent, for like so the voice agent, you need to take voice as a input, right? So you need to make sure that your model can process voice, right? So that's why where multimodality is important, right? Versus if you're just doing a text bot, right? Text-based chatbot, right? Then the multimodality is not that important, right? So you need to describe why picking a model that is multimodal that is important to the business application, right? Just give an example. We can give any example, okay? You can give any example, right? So processing a voice agent is important, right? To a multimodal is important to this, right? So that is like and that is one of the key, right? So you can also pick, like I think is mentioned in the lecture note. You can also pick a non-multimodal, but you have to do a pre-processing of like the voice to speech or voice to text, right? The speech to text, translate to text, and then pump the text into the model, right? So that's not very efficient. So that's why you should pick the a model that can accept voice input. So latency, right? Speed, right? We talk about this, right? Latency, time to first token, and all the different token latencies. Then you can actually refer to the notes about like what is latency mean, right? That you should be very quickly and able to get that, right? Why do you need to have the latency, right? So if it's the keyword is the real time, right? Same example, you use real time voice agent, right? Because it's a real-time interacting with the human being. So latency matters. You want to make sure that it answers in a timely manner, right? So versus a use case of like you process 10,000 reports overnight, right? The latency may not be as much of importance. So you can pick a model that with a higher latency, right? Everything is a trade-off, remember. Yeah? Any questions? Any questions? Please raise your hand. So what else? Performance, right? The model performance, such as accuracy rates, right? That like error rates, all these different benchmarks, right? You have all these like humanity last exam now. Every new model is pushing the envelope, right? But do you need a model that is so smart, right? Depends on your use case, right? Do you really need the highest, the smartest model? Of course, that comes with a cost, right? It can be the latency, it can be the cost, it can be other things, right? So do you need a model that is so smart, right? So you look at it, a complex financial analysis demand a high accuracy and depth of analysis, right? So in that case, you want to have a smarter model, right? That's why you need to have a reasoning model. You need to make sure that it does the financial analysis correctly. It do a lot of reasoning, right? So that's an example, right? Versus just casual chatting kind of a function, maybe just need a very simple model, right? So and then you trade it off with the other characteristics, right? So make sure that you give a reason why you need the performance when this is important, right? Context window, right? Context window is like why is context window? Some are up to 2 million tokens now. 2 million tokens equal to like 2 hours of video, right? Many like PDF documents, right? That's also the effective like context window, right? That like even though some of the model takes 1 million tokens or 2 million tokens, the effective context window may drop very rapidly, right? So some of the benchmark actually test that. Why do you need a large context window? Okay? If you need to process a very large file, right? Like if you need to have a massive data ingestion for complex financial analysis, then you will need a larger context window. Think about you need to ingest the whole financial report, right? 300 pages of a PDF, right? You need a very large context window to handle that, right? So that making sure that can fit into your input, right? Versus you have a very short like chatting session, then maybe you don't need a large context window. You can take model that is smaller context window, right? Always a trade-off. So throughput, right? So what's throughput, right? Measure the total volume of token the system can process, right? Think about that, like why is throughput is important, right? The overall capacity. Think about if your application needs to scale, right? Can you actually make sure that the throughput is actually match what you need for your use case, right? So the example we use is high throughput optimization necessary for batch processing tasks with massive arrival volume, right? Like 10,000 users, keep uploading, right? Where optimizing latency is required for single user, immediate response checking, right? So that is another trade-off, right? Throughput, right? Compared to latency. Right? So you need to think about throughput and latency and the trade-off, right? So for some system, you need a very high throughput. For some system, you really need no latency. Talk about why this is important. Yeah. people keep asking whether we should upload. I don't know. So of course the last one is cost, right? Remember that like the cost of output token is much more expensive than the input token, right? So you of course when you have a more intelligent model, more thinking, right, more reasoning, then it will definitely cost you more, right? So don't use a cannon to shoot a mosquito, right? So make sure that you have the right model with the right cost, right? So business cannot optimize all 6 simultaneously, right? So they have to actually making sure that like you have the right thing to do all the compare to all the 6 different characteristics, right? So that you can use a low-cost router to route, right? That can take as a to route it to the specialized model, right? We talked about that, right? And then to direct the traffic, right, in front. Right? That's one use case for a low-cost model. So for that, remember that 6 one, right? So answering each of the characteristics, giving a business application will give you 5 points each, right? Mentioning that you need to trade off between the different characteristics will give you another 5 points, right? So you need to make sure that you mention that why do you need to have a trade-off, right? You give the 6 like you give 3 out of 6 characteristic description. You tell why each characteristic is important, right? In what scenario, and then you need to also mention it's always a trade-off, right? Basically, what we mentioned, right? And because you cannot have all 6, you cannot have a cheap and smart and fast model. If that, then no one need any other model, right? That one model will just take over the market, right? Because it's always a trade-off. That's why you always need to have a trade-off, right? That's why all these models still exist, right? Even within the same provider, right? Gemini has Sparse, has Pro, right? Even like OpenAI has also have the thinking model and non-thinking model, Sparse model. You can see all the model thought is the same, right? They provide multiple versions for people to choose from, right? Some will be cheaper, some will be more expensive. Some will be higher throughput, and some will be higher in intelligence. Right? So, any questions on this? Any questions? Okay. No questions? Let's go through our last question. Operational AI lifetime Tiger team UX and oversight are successfully deploying a generative AI application in an enterprise extend far beyond selecting the model, right? So we done selecting the model, but implementing it, also another aspect of it, right? It requires operational planning, intuitive design, and continuous auditing, right? Checking and monitoring, right? Describe the role business person. Why is it important within the AI Tiger team, right? During the early stage of the workflow mapping, once the persona and use case are identified, what are the key principles of designing the logical user interface for the Gen AI tool, right? So you see the different parts of the question. First, you describe the critical role of the business user within the AI Tiger team, right? Remember what is the AI Tiger team, right? That you have the prompt engineer, you have the business person, right? You have the operational expert, right? It's mentioned in the notes, right? And then you have the key principle for designing the UI interface for the tool, right? Conclude your essay by explaining why establishing a human-in-the-loop oversight process is not just an ethical recommendation, but a structural necessity for continuous performance improvement, incident response, and ensure the safety of the generated outcome. Right? So you can see the different parts of the answer, different part of the question. Okay? Make sure you answer the parts, all the parts, right, to get all the points. Right? So first, what is the business person? Right? So successfully deploying a Gen AI application within the enterprise require a highly structured approach to information. The critical role of a business person. During the initial stage of the workflow mapping, the development of AI application driven by the specialized Tiger team. What is the Tiger team? Prompt engineer, business person, and the operational lead, right? Within these like kind of three roles, right? The business person. Remember, we talked about this, right? Even the same as forming your own project team, right? You should have someone who understands the business context, right? The business person keep the requirement, right? So they understand what is needed, what is the business problem, right? So if you are trying to build a marketing application, you better have someone who knows marketing, right? If you are building a healthcare application, you better have someone to understand what is healthcare and what is the requirement, what is the need, right? Same if you're doing a AI-enabled interviewing process or like kind of like resume filtering, you probably should have someone from the HR team. So all this, the business person act as an anchor for the reality, right? That you actually, you might not have a lot of technical background, but you understand the business problem, right? It knows what kind of like when you build the AI kind of system, you're trying to help the human, right? So you try to help as a, let's say if it's a HR recruiting kind of a system, it's trying to help the recruiter, right? So it needs to know what is the recruiter kind of like pain point is, right? So that's why the business person is required, right? Once it specify the requirement, right? And then the prompt engineering and then the technical component comes in, right? So that will kind of play a role in that, right? So that is what the business person is, right? And why this is important to the whole implementation of the Gen AI application. Any questions? So after that, right? You ask about the UX UI design, right? So actually there's a slide, if you remember, there's a slide who talk about how do you create the principle? What's the principle that you use to create the UX design? Make sure that you keep the interface simple, right? Remember we talked about like see all the AI application now, like ChatGPT, Gemini, very simple, right? Very simple interface. Try to minimize and it should be intuitive, right? You probably don't need a menu to actually understand what it does, right? Not like PowerPoint or Excel, right? Have like hundreds of functions that you don't know about and don't know how to work, right? So it needs to be intuitive. People can actually pick it up very easily, right? It needs to have a kind of a personal kind of like that you can personalize. And you need to be able to personalize the input and output, personalize the sensor, right? So the interface should be allowing the user to set it, right? Just like in Gemini or in ChatGPT, you can specify your kind of characteristics, what you prefer, your preferences, all that you can set, right? So that is the kind of one of the keys that you can actually adjust, right? Personalize. right? That and it should be intuitive, right? It should be logical. So you don't need a thick menu to use it, right? So design for ecosystem integration. Remember that we said, right? Your application should be able to extend functionality, right? Should have the extensibility, easy to pick up new functions, easy to actually add on to it, right? Because that is very important in today's kind of competitive environment. So that is prioritize cost device accessibility, right? All this you need to be accessed through multiple devices on the web, right? Using your computer, on the phone, right? Using an app, right? Should maintain that user kind of experience across the different devices, right? So this will give you the 10 out of the 20 points. The one before will give you 5 out of the 20 points, right? So, but also the last part, right? That why the human in the loop is important, right? Because it's actually, yeah. So because the human oversight is necessary, right, for ensuring the safety. Remember, the one with the nuclear missile, right? So they have the one man human in the loop before the counter attack is launched, right? So very important from a compliance perspective as well for some of the financial applications, right? That we have to make sure that there's a human in the loop, right, to improve the safety, right? Especially for some sensitive and high risk application, right? Because generative content can have hallucination, right? So remember that is a requirement for Hong Kong MA, right? To make sure that you have human in the loop in making some of the financial advice, right? Because it's a licensing, right? And then you need to test the quality, right? AP test, right? And then also human in the loop also can help improve the quality of the answer as well, right? To choose which one is better. So that will give you explaining that will give you another 5 points. And so that becomes the 20 points, right, of the question. So it should be easy enough. And you don't have to write it exactly like this, right? To the point. Right? And making sure that you dissect the question into multiple parts. All the question will have multiple parts, right? And then you will be allocated to how big the part is. That will be the mark for you. Yeah. Any question? Any question? All ready for the exam? Not hard, right? Huh? Yeah. Oh, so you in my class, you in his class, so you always show up in my class. Oh, okay. I see. No, but all the slides are there, right? All the slides are there. So again, locate the topic. Locate the topic, right? There's a topic about human in the loop, right? You can't do the search on the printout, right? But you have time. That's 3 hours, right? Oh, 2 hours. Sorry, 2 hours. Is it 2 hours or 3 hours? I don't know. Is it 2 hours? 2 hours? You should have enough time to search for only 4 out of the 5 questions. And 20 multiple choice. See, we have gone through half of the exam. with all this explanation in 1 hour, right? This is half of the exam. Remember, like we only need to answer 4 questions. We answered 2. Right? Of course, I saved the search part because I know all the content, right? So but you add the time, right? So it should be okay. Be okay. Any questions? Yeah. How can I help? How can I help? Huh? I don't set that. Are we sure it's 2 hours? Like, let me check. Are we sure it's like are we sure it's 2 hours? I think it's in one of the slides. Let me check, yeah. 2 hours? Yeah, it's 2 hours. Oh, is it? Not enough time, you think? Let me ask if I can increase. I don't know. Should be okay, right? Be okay, right? Be okay. I thought last year was 3 hours. Was it 2 hours? Anyways. Oh, 2 hours? 2 hours? Okay, 2 hours. 2 hours. So let me ask that question. How else can I help? The lecture also recorded, right? Any other question? So let me upload the slides today. Okay, I'll upload the slides today. So I thought this is already a very big tip. So the it's already a very big tip. Yeah. So but also like the question is distributed among the course material. The first 3 lectures, there's a lot of content, right? So you definitely will have more questions around that, right? Um, not a lot on the, there's still some, but not a lot on the guest lecture. Okay? More just the idea. More just the idea. I don't want to give you the false information. I don't remember. I created this exam so long ago. I don't remember exactly. Some 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 of I remember one of the essay question in one version. You do have a guest lecture kind of related question. Maybe market. Okay. Maybe. Again, there's 2 versions of the exam. So don't bet on it, right? Don't bet on it. This also the question I have to make it different too. Yeah, but some question will be the same. And some I already mentioned some very important topics. And we already went through it today. So I hope everyone get that question right. I'll be very angry if you get it wrong. Okay. Yes. No limitation. Bring anything, okay? But you cannot bring a electronic device. Yeah. So you can bring anything that you print. Yeah. You're gonna kill a lot of trees. Yeah. Or I make you kill a lot of trees. I should take responsibility. Any questions? Okay, here. Can't hear the voice? Yes, I'll upload the PowerPoint to Canvas. So one question, can we type on a PC or is it all handwriting? You don't need to handwrite anything, okay? You can print anything, okay? You don't have to write it. You don't need to write it, okay? Don't write it, okay? Oh, no. I thought the material, he says. Oh, no. Okay, so that's the question? Okay, sorry. No, handwritten. Exam question is definitely handwritten. Do we need to make our answer as comprehensive as the example, or it's okay to provide key points? Yes, I think providing key point is okay, as long as you answer that, right? Of course, the model answer, I try to be more comprehensive, right? So you just need to provide, but make sure you answer all the elements, right? Don't miss the elements, because I provide the marking scheme. You need to mention this, you need to talk about this for you to get the points, right? What can we bring? Bring anything that is with like you can print out, right? Hard copy. You can bring as much paper as you want. Okay. Does this lecture have recording in Zoom? Yes, we do have a recording. Any other questions? So in fact, that's it, yeah, for the lecture. For today material, I only cover until here. So any other questions? I can stay on to answer some questions. Yeah. Good luck on the exam. Yeah, we are done for today's review session. Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, you can leave now. You can leave anytime. Yeah. You can leave now. Thank you.
Yeah, the 12 marks told us the assignment occupied about 20% and the participation. But all the assignments are optional. We wonder whether it is compulsory to attending some of them or
Yeah, no, so those optional assignment is for the kind of the attendance mark, right? So you like is the like you you should answer them. You should submit those, right? Then the part of it is asking questions in class, right? The participation mark. So I think when we publish the optional assignment, we already mentioned, right? Those are for the participation marks as well. But we don't need you to like hand in every one of them, but you should like I hope you did not submit anything. You should submit to some of them, right? Even though it's optional.
they told me that they haven't finished some of the optional assignments which was after deadline. So we wonder what is the basis quantity of the assignment which is required to be submitted.
So, but now it's all closed, right? I think we also mentioned last time, someone asked for an extension of the optional assignment, and then we extended the deadline. That's the quiz. Oh, that's the quiz. Yeah. So which is also optional.
You can see that
Ah,
some of them we don't know the exact breed of that. They have six, which you can see that only five and six are remain valid.
ah,
But some of them they don't know that, so they.
oh.